Hey, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. And well, before we start talking about the topic of this video, let's get the quick fist watch check out of the way. And here she is. I am wearing the 43 millimeter 50th anniversary red line Sea Dweller. It's quite a mouthful. Okay, but we're not here to talk about the Sea Dweller today, although I can't help but admire it in the front-facing camera that I'm using. It's a beautiful thing, and I do like it very much. But today, we are here to talk about the dog of the range. You know, like, it ain't nothing but a hound dog. This watch that we're going to talk about is perhaps one of the most unloved of the current production models of Rolex, and maybe one of the most unloved models of all time. I just don't get why, so let's talk about that right now.
So let's have a look around the watch now. It is a 42 millimeter watch, but it wears kind of big because it's mostly dial, and the dial being that stark, lacquered, bright white, it just accentuates the size of the watch. Also, the plots are larger than you will find on most Rolex, and those hands are chubbier than you are going to see even on the Sea Dweller 43 millimeter, which technically is a larger watch, but this one wears every bit as large as that, if not larger. It annoys me a little that there's no anti-reflective coating on a Rolex, so you tend to get this glare, but once you get it into the right angle, it's literally the easiest Rolex to read I've ever seen or owned. I really love how they have outlined those round hour plot markers with black, and they've done the same thing with the hands. As I said, the hands are extra wide and large and outlined in black, so you get extreme legibility. I really do enjoy that sort of bright orange splash that you get from that 24-hour hand, and this bracelet tapers. It has the perfect taper. 904L steel just glows differently and better and than does the 316 steel. So this holds a polish like you wouldn't believe, and it just has sort of a warm glow to it. I completely love that taper. This is a true GMT movement with jumping hour hand. You can leave the orange 24-hour hand synced with local time or set for a second time zone. So why all the hate for the 42 millimeter version that came out in 2011? Here's the prior version. It's a 40 millimeter version. Mind you, it's a little more refined, and I think that Rolex people really like their classic look. I had this watch for a very short time before I flipped it. And the reason I flipped it is it had hollow center links, a really crappy clasp. I did like that polar white dial, but the overall feel of this watch at 40 millimeters was just too inky dinky and flimsy for me on the one hand. On the other hand, this was the only watch that actually ever really got compliments out on the street. So I have to admit it was a handsome watch, although I did find that little 24-hour hand, it looks just kind of flimsy and small to me, which really was my problem with the overall watch. Now, as the picture slides over here, you're going to notice it compared to a pre-ceramic Sea Dweller. And although the Sea Dweller is a thicker watch than that Explorer 2, the case dimensions are really similar. And I think that this is why we get hate for the current version of the Explorer 2, because it's bigger, it's bulkier, it's the dog of the range. You Rolex guys, you just really love your old classic look, don't you? But we can't help it, guys. Tempus fugit, which is to say time flies, and the times they are changing, out with the old and in with the new. So the old proportions of the delicate Rolex are leading way to a bigger, brawnier look. We're seeing this in the super case and maxi dial of virtually all of the sports watches. So don't hate on this watch. It's no exception now. It might not be the kind of classy watch you want to take to fine dining, but you'll feel right at home at Denny's in this. Well, we do have a rugged Oyster perpetual case here, and I don't know how far down you can go in syrup, but you can go to 100 meters of depth for water resistance with the Explorer 2. It's super legible, and in a minute I'm going to show you some of the daytime lume. So I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this watch. I don't understand the hate. I can't help it. I'm like a little kid with lume. It has to glow bright, and it has to last all night long. The old Explorer had super luminova, whereas this has the new chroma light from Rolex, and although it doesn't glow quite as bright, it's very notable with its blue hue, and it's very long lasting, so I really like it. All Rolexes were developed as tool watches, and this one's no exception. It was developed for cavers and explorers, people who sometimes got into dark areas, who couldn't tell day from night, and that's what the 24-hour hand was for. I don't do anything crazy rugged like that, but I'll tell you what, it did very well in the pumpkin patch. Here, we're in Halloween time in the United States, And you can see this thing contrasts just beautifully with the countryside and almost anywhere you want to take it. Well, every watch, no matter how much you like it, is going to have a downside. And this watch is no exception. I think the downside here is that big, broad, metallic stainless steel bezel. Okay, it kind of it's conical, so it's kind of all aiming down on the one hand. On the other hand, it sticks out, and you have to be really careful going through doorways, etc., so you don't slam it into anything, because it's the vulnerable point of this watch. If you get little itty bitty scratches and swirls on your clasp and on your brushed links of your oyster bracelet, you're not going to notice that too much, but if you bash and ding this 24-hour bezel, you're certainly going to notice it. So that's what you really have to be careful with. I think I understand that a replacement bezel is about $300, so it's not like you can't replace it, but you'd really rather not have to do that more than once or twice in your lifetime.
You know, really the big question about the new Explorer 2, this current version that I have, the big question that I have really is, am I going to get bored with it? Because I got commitment issues. People, I have commitment issues. I tend to get a little bored a little quick. And I have enjoyed wearing this watch almost on a daily basis for the last several days since I got it. I don't have it right now. I'm still wearing the Sea Dweller that I filmed in the intro, which I did a different day than today. But I'm still wearing it, and the reason is that I drove to the authorized dealer and I left the Explorer there because they are going to do a whatchamacallit. They're going to do an appraisal on it. I don't have box and papers. I will get a box. That won't be a big issue. So I'm going to get an insurance appraisal from the authorized dealer, and it'll have the serial number and it will have the model number, etc. of the watch. And that does two things for me, really. The first and most important thing is it authenticates the watch, which is good because I got it on eBay and I'm going to want to get that done, number one. And number two, it gives me paperwork in case I ever want to sell this thing. Makes it easy for the next guy to understand that it's an authenticated piece. So hopefully I won't get bored with it. Right now, I don't think so. For me, I really always want to wear a sizable watch. Look how that just fills out the breadth of my wrist nicely. And because the dial of the Explorer 2 is white and big, it actually wears bigger than this watch, which technically is a larger piece of metal from here to here, 43 millimeters, and it's only 42 on the Explorer. But as I showed you earlier, or mentioned, that Explorer 2, it wears large. So really, who's it for? If you have a small dinky wrist and you don't want to feel like you're wearing a saucer on there, you might want to avoid the watch. If you don't like compliments, avoid it, because this is the watch that I think is most noticeable. This is kind of conservative. This is the black dial, but with a white dial, you can, people can see it from quite a distance. Do me a favor, guys, please like this video and also subscribe to my video. Leave me a comment. Tell me why the hate, or am I wrong? Do you love it? You just tell me what you think. My impression is that I'm in the minority, with my love for this watch, this particular model. But let me know what you guys think when you communicate with me in the comments, when you leave me a thumbs up or even a thumbs down, when you subscribe to me. I know you're there, and that's important to me because otherwise it's just me and a couple of paintings and and some dumbbells all alone. So it really helps me motivate and understand that this is a dialogue, that we're doing this together. So this is Mark Goldberg peacing out. Thank you so much for being with me. Let's do this again next time.
Paint the sky your favorite color.